Ladies and gentlemen, here we go. The 2022 NRL Grand Final is just 6 days away, and it's the Battle of the West. It feels like this was destiny. It's going to be the biggest NRL Grand Final, potentially of all time. I've got no doubt that we're going to get near 90,000+ fans inside that stadium. A quick shout out to everyone who turned up at a core. Over 50,000, the biggest Sydney crowd for a non-grand final match and a non-origin in some time. But let's focus on this. It's the preview. I'm giving you my predictions. Here we go. It is destiny. It is upon us. It is the Battle of the West. In this year's grand final, Penrith, they can cement themselves as a dynasty. One of the best teams of all time if they can go back-to-back in their third grand final, their third straight grand final, while the Parramatta Eels, it is their last chance to break the hoodoo before they have to enter a mini rebuild. I have no idea how this is going to play out. I've thought about it, but I'm here. Now, quick disclaimer, this video is coming out on the Monday because, unfortunately, the university grind does not stop in grand final week, so I won't have time to do it over Tuesday or Wednesday. My next video will be the Rugby Live 4 preview coming out Thursday, and then we're pumping videos all out until the grand final, so make sure you smash that like button. If you enjoy the video, comment your predictions down below. I'm going to be running through some matchups, how I think Penrith win, how I think the Eels win, and then my official prediction for the grand final winner, the score, and the Clive Churchill medalist. Now, last year, folks, I predicted in my grand final preview that Penrith would win 18-14 over South and that Brian To'o would get the Clive Churchill medal. So I was pretty darn close without tooting my own horn. I also said that this would be the grand final at the start of the final series in my finals bracket. So that has come true. And in that video, just for context, like I've said all season, I think Penrith walk away. So has my mind changed? We're about to find out. I apologize once again for that little stumble. Alright, guys and gals, before we get any more into the video, please smash that like button if you enjoy it. Comment your thoughts down below. And of course, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It is completely free and you can always unsubscribe later. So just smash that button right now. But let's get straight back into the video. Now, we're going to quick fire some of these because honestly, we could talk about these matchups for years. The battle of the fullbacks. They're not your Tedescos, they're not your Tommies, but Dylan Edwards proved last week that there is a place for this type of fullback. In fact, if it wasn't for the 3-2-1, I think Dylan Edwards would have to be considered the player of the year. He's been the best player and the most consistent Penrith player on a team that has been so dominant throughout the season. It was all about Latrell versus Cleary last week, and while Latrell has copped some criticism, I don't think he was too bad, but Dylan Edwards was still able to run rings around him. Nathan Cleary got man of the match in both their finals games, but Dylan Edwards has been so close. He had a lackluster first game of the finals against Penrith Clinton Gutherson, but what a 2 weeks he's had. He's so underrated, Gutho. It felt like after 2020 he was finally getting the praise he deserves, but then we saw Tommy, then we saw Teddy, and he's sort of gone away a little bit. This year he has been quiet once again, but his past 2 games have been the best. The outside backs, Wagga Blake, he will be doing practice catching for the rest of his life in the lead up to the grand final. That made 0 sense. He's also going to be with Sivo, Penasini, and it'll be interesting to see if Opacek returns or Bailey Simonson comes in, and Simonson was great. The Penrith backline, I think Taylor May comes in for Charlie Staines, and I think that's the only change both sides will make to the grand final. But the most important matchup, Luai and Cleary versus Brown and Moses. Brown and Moses, I don't know where they were last week. Moses, he came up with a crucial dropout towards the end of the match. Outside of that, he was pretty bloody quiet, and I don't think Dylan Brown, I think he's in a Where's Wally book. Meanwhile, Luai, he stood up and Cleary, well, He's been one of the best players in the final series. He has struggled in the first halves of both games, but when Penrith, they hit the front, he just explodes and puts the game out of reach. The forward pack, Regan, Barlow, Reed Marnie, Sean Lane, Papali'i, and of course, the lock, Ryan Madison, and Niokore, shout out to Niokore, up against Fisher Harris, Leota, Api Coruscant, who I don't know why he's coming off the bench, and for me, he's the best hooker in the competition, so Tigers fans, look out for that. Kick out his final game for Penrith, Liam Martin and Isaiah Yeo. There are matchups all over the place. If I had to pick a better 1-17, it's very close. I would give the edge to Penrith just because of consistency, and I think that Cleary has a bit more X factor. But in saying that, they're very evenly matched sides, so any matchup, and I mean any matchup, could go either way. It's going to be the end of an era. I don't think that Penrith will be the same team next year when they lose Appy and Kickout, and I don't think the Eels will be the same team next year. So if we're ever going to get a Battle of the West, it has to happen now. The Penrith Panthers, they haven't lost by more than 13 plus since July of 2019. We've seen the Storm, they've dominated, the Roosters have dominated for the past decade, but no team has had a 3-year stretch just as dominant as this Penrith Panthers side. Every time they lose, their opponents, including the Eels, have had to put their best performance in of the season. So if both teams play to their best, it's hard not to see Penrith walking away with the win. They're just incredible. The way they grind you down. If there was ever a point where they looked weak, it was that first half. South Sydney, they pummeled that back three, and that didn't allow the forwards to ball play. They controlled the ruck against Penrith, so they showed the Eels the blueprint. If the Eels can just dominate the first few tackles, which is very hard because it's Edwards, Toto, and more than likely Taylor May, then they'll be able to put lots of pressure on Nathan Cleary, who South, they did a fantastic job in that first half, but it's all going to depend on what Parramatta show up. The Parramatta that showed up last week against the Cowboys will get pumped. The Parramatta that showed up in week 1 of the finals, they will probably lose. The Parramatta who showed up against the Raiders were willing to throw the ball around, willing to make Penrith slide. They weren't able to get off the line quickly because if they did, they were able to offload and shift. That is the Parramatta that can beat Penrith. They showed it early in the season, offloading the ball, making Penrith not utilise their line speed, make them hang back, make them go out wide. It is what worked for the Eels. Now, let's not beat around the bush. What's my prediction? What is my Clive Churchill prediction? Honestly, I nearly tipped the Eels, but I'm staying strong. I think the Penrith Panthers go back-to-back. I tipped them on the 28th of February. They were the team I said all preseason I thought they would go back-to-back. They're a phenomenal outfit, and I think they're going to have a year off with that Appy and Kickout before they can challenge again, but who bloody knows with this Penrith side? Nathan Cleary, he's proven himself in the big games, and I know he wants to make sure he puts those Origin demons to bed, because let's face it, he doesn't like playing from behind, and that's what South Sydney did. They put scoreboard pressure on Penrith, and Cleary was a bit quiet until they tied the game. That second half started. The Eels, they've had their bad game. If they turn up, then they have every chance of winning. But I'm going to go Penrith. I'm going to tip Penrith 16 points to 12. I think there'll be a try or maybe just a few penalty goals in it. A similar score to last year's. I don't see many tries being scored. I think if the Eels win, they'll have to score more than 20 points. Anything less, and I think that Penrith will get the job done. So I'm going to tip Penrith 16 points to 12. My Clive Churchill medalist, I'm going to give it to Dylan Edwards. I think he caps off his season with a terrific final game, over 200 running meters, and I think he scores a try as well. So, lock it in. The Paddy G prediction for this year's grand final: Penrith 16, Parramatta 12. Dylan Edwards, Clive Churchill medalist. Guys, that is the final NRL preview, NRL tipping video of the season. What an incredible ride it has been. In the lead up to the grand final later in the week, we will be dropping content, so make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. Smash that like button if you enjoyed this video. Comment your thoughts about this week's grand final down below, and I'll see you guys in the next one.